to a dizzying level. The head of a House of Reps Committee on Petroleum Resources and Downstream has jumped into the fray. Chairman of the committee, Honorable Ikenga Ugo Chinyere, on Friday vowed that the committee would maintain a balance between the feuding parties. When you pour oil on troubled waters, what could you possibly pour on troubled oil?
Well, for me, anything that will bring peace into that sector is what I will pursue, is what I will advise, is what I will go for. The two parties must take into cognizance that they are not the only ones that will be affected by their needless acrimony, that the ordinary Nigerians will be affected and will suffer the consequences of their actions.
Did you see Dangote's venture staggering, ruffling feathers?
Well, I don't want to stand here to try to apportion blame, but what I would say is that I know that a man who has set up his business has his objective of setting up the business. Mm-hmm. He has his idea of how he wants the company to run. And if we go by our constitution, if you don't accept the terms and conditions of your service, it's not compulsory for you to stay.
You bow out.
But the moment you have agreed to come in, it's just like the National Assembly, when people say, oh, they will go and challenge their action for suspending their member, the court said that once you have agreed to be part of that club, you must abide by the rules and regulations, guiding that club. I will appeal to the workers, the Pengasam member, that they should stop using their weapon, at will and recklessly to cause avoidable and untold hardship, on Nigerians. They should find a middle course, to this matter and ensure that it is resolved amicably.
Wale, your intervention?
Well, I think we have to look at the merits and demerits of both sides, and then the arguments, of the two parties. Dangote, having set up, invested so much money, this one of the world's largest refineries, does not want to drag that company into the tradition of conflict that is associated with the oil workers in Nigeria, where there's anything, people go on strike. He sees this as a private company that do perform a public function, and that he doesn't want a situation where the labor politics will be brought into his company. NUPEG is also talking about the value of collective bargaining to defend the interests of workers, to protect their interests, that if they are not unionized, the management will exploit them and there will be nobody to stand for them. But I think, just like I said, both parties should consider the interest of Nigerians.
The everyday
Nigerian. Because, and also for me, this may sound strange. I'm not really against, I think there should be union, but I don't think necessarily it should be NUPENG. Why am I saying that? NUPENG, there was no NUPENG until 1978. There were unions. We had BP Workers Union, we have Shell Petroleum Unions, we had Tesaco. There were about, in fact, 11 unions that were merged by the military to become NUPENG. So it's all this garrisons mentality of the military that, you must have. And in fact, in 2000...
And unitary
system.
Yeah.
So what is important is the welfare of those workers. I don't think they must necessarily be part of NUPENG. So you don't also forget that in 2016, NUPENG left the NLC to set up United Labour Congress. They set up a United Labour, though later they went back to NLC. So when we are talking about democracy, there must be freedom of association. But I don't want a situation where that union that will be set up will be under the control, tied to the management of Dangote. So the people must be free to set up alternative unions to protect the interests of their workers. And I also think that what is going on, is a reminder of the need for Nigeria not to tie its future its petroleum industry future to only one individual company. That's Dangote. Brazil has about 30 medium and small scale refineries. Egypt has about 12. Angola has 1 and is thinking of building 3 others. Angola is just 37 million people. So we must have a foresight about having Southwest region, South region.
Is also coming
they must have multiple. If not, one individual will take this country, will hold us to ransom, and we will not be able to do.
All right. Okay. We are joined on this topic by a gentleman, a development economist, Nemeka Obiariri. I hope I got that right.
Yes, Nemeka Obiariri.
Nemeka, good afternoon. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to our hangout.
Thank you.
So, how do you weigh in? How do you look at this matter we're discussing?
I'm listening keenly to your interventions, and the last speaker is actually very right. Nupeng and Pengassan is a hangover of the military era. We need to understand clearly that Dangote refinery is a private concern. You know, I'm even shocked that the HR department of Dangote refinery did not include in the employment, I don't know, I'm not sure, did not include in the employment letter of every of their staff that are joining any association like either Nupeng or Pengassan is tantamount to resigning from their office. Nupeng and Pengassan should need to look inward and curtail their excesses. Because I even saw the advert by Dangote Group where Nupeng was dishing out orders, stop gas supply to Dangote, stop this and that and that. We are not in a military era. Dangote refinery is a private concern. And there's a contract between an employer and employee, and that contract is documented clearly in the employment letter that documents the KPIs and agreement between an employer and employee. If Dangote refineries in their wisdom says they don't want their staff to be part of any union, that should be respected. Shutting down the industry, creating chaos in the industry is not the way to sort out this issue. And this is not the first time Pengassan and Nupeng is trying to create chaos in the industry because of one reason or the other. Nigeria is a lawful state, a democratic state that has laws and orders. There's a Nigeria Industrial Court that can agitate on such issues. If any of the staff or group of staff in Dangote feels one way or the other that their welfare or interests are not being protected, there are regulatory and the judicial ways of, seeking for reprieve in Nigeria. So I am not in support of the actions of Nupeng and Pengassan. It's the time for us to call, an end to this kind of madness that we have been seeing in Nigeria. If the refinery says we don't want our members to be part of the union and they go ahead to be part of the union, they have the right to relinquish, to terminate their appointment and bring in those who are willing to. Of course, Dangote refinery said that they've experienced a lot of sabotage within their state. There's always ways and means which an employer and employee can sort out the issue. I align wholly with the actions taken by the Dangote refinery.
Well, let me start this way. I gathered that there was an internal memo where the staffers were asked to feel whether they would belong to a union or not, and it was after that exercise. It was the outcome of that exercise that led to the sacking of most of the workers. So all those who chose to belong to union, even though they were filling that form without knowing what the management wants to use the result for, and were asked, will you say that was a proper way of doing that? Because you just said here now that the HR should have included issue of unionization in the condition of service.
I have no way of confirming. It's an allegation that this happened. None of us here can actually, confirm or debunk such allegations. But the truth is, like I said, Dangote Refinery is not an NPC. It's not a public sector organization. It's a private sector organization. And as an employer of labor, I know clearly that there's a document that specifies the relationship between an employer and employee. And that document is codified in the employment letter. If it was clearly stated and specified that none of their staff should belong to any of these unions, and they go out of their way to join, it's tantamount to saying, I no longer want to become part of this organization. And now Dangote has exercised their right to say, okay, you have lived out of the conditions of an agreement of employment. Therefore, we are letting you go. If any of the staff or group of staff feel aggrieved, they should go to the Nigerian Industrial Court. We have ways of remedies, not Pengassan and Nopeng trying to shut down Nigeria, trying to ruin a $20 billion investment that was instituted by somebody in 2013. I still say it. He said, see, I have not one time or second written a lot on why we should not allow our oil and gas industry to be monopolized. But that does not in any way derail us from facing what the law specified. It's not right, for whatever reason, for Nopeng and the Pengassan to insert themselves in the internal relationship between an employer and employee. And it's high time we call this madness to order. It's not the first time. Every little thing, they will shut down the market, they will shut down the economy. Because I want to ask this question. Between 1999 till now, we wasted 16 trillion naira on the 3 public sector-owned refineries. Those Pengassan and Nopeng members that we are working with, we are drawing annual salaries of almost about 120 billion. If these guys are sincere, if these guys are patriotic, every year on year, you draw 120 billion naira salary emolument. It never occurred to you that those refineries are supposed to work. None of them ever went on a riot or protest to say, okay, sack the management of this refinery that's stealing money. Do this or do that. They comfortably drew salaries. They comfortably embarked on overseas travels, drew extra costs. Year on year, Nigeria was wasting 120 billion naira on the emoluments of these guys. Okay,
Mr. Obiareri, what is the position of the everyday Nigerian in all of this? Will he ever know a reprieve?
Like I said to you, now you understand why the like of Shell, Chevron, Texaco, Mobil have refused to build refineries in Nigeria. I said to somebody, I was discussing with someone, I said, Shell, Chevron, and the Texaco and Total has refineries in South Africa that does not have the level of crude that we have. It is this kind of nonsense and madness by Nopeng, by Pengassan, and all kind of nonsense we have in this country that have made these guys to say, hey, we cannot put our investment in this kind of environment. Nigerians are always at the receiving end. I am not against anybody unionizing. I am not against anybody setting up whatever group, but you should understand clearly, a private business is a private business. And the documents that specify clearly the relationship between an employer and employee is the employment letter. Anything outside of it is meddlesomeness.
Okay, as a development economist, don't you think the price war provoked by Alhaji Dangote's refinery jumping into the fray is because of this wahala we're having?
I don't think there's anything like a price war. I'll give you an example. Brazil has 15.5 billion barrels of crude reserve. And daily they produce about 3.7 billion barrels. They have 19 refineries that refine 2.4 million barrels of combined refinery every day. Brazil is who they are. Petrobras, the NNPC equivalent of Brazil, controls 11 and owns 11 of those refineries. Why is NNPC not as efficient as a Petrobras? We know the reason. The same issue of Nopeng, Pengassan, public sector meddlesomeness in their affairs. What did Brazilians do? They are not more honest than Nigerians. They discovered clearly that this kind of nonsense will not allow investors coming to their country. The Brazilian government divested 72% of their shareholdings from Petrobras and handed over those shares to deep-pocketed technical savvy private and foreign investors, and they own only 28%. That is why Petrobras is as efficient today as Nigerian liquefied natural gas. Nigerian liquefied natural gas actually not producing up to its optimal capacity because of inefficiency at NNPC. We know what to do, and I've always advised the federal government of Nigeria. If we want Nigeria today to be doing 4 million barrels a day crude and have combined refineries that can do at least 2.53 million barrels, we need to unbundle the NNPC, restructure the ownership, sell 40% ownership to deep-pocketed, technically savvy private investors, and then the remaining 60% to Nigerians. I will invest. Most Nigerians offshore will invest. List it on the floor of Nigerian Stock Exchange. And in 2 years, you will see clearly the change that will happen in that place. Why do you think that currently we have FX stability? Because of the good works of Ojulari and Yemi Cardoso. Yemi Cardoso and Ojulari are two of the exceptional guys in the Tinubu's government. You can see clearly that over the last 6 months, we have had FX stability. In fact, the Naira has continually gained over $1 because we have had output at a level of 1.7 million barrels. And Yemi had done excellently well in ensuring the MPR rates, using the MPR instrument to ensure that we have more FX inflow than outflow. Now, all we need to do to ensure that we'll achieve a $1 trillion economy is to unbundle the NNPC, restructure it to go along the way of Petrobras, end some of this nonsense that we call Nupeng and Pengasan, and allow this economy to grow the way it should grow. And I tell you this, by 2030, we will have a $1.2 trillion economy. But as long as we keep on allowing this kind of meddlesomeness, this kind of nonsense, this kind of inefficiencies, we will not make any headway. And Mr. President needs to call out the hammer and stop this nonsense.
Yeah, except that we would prefer moderate grammar. Let's moderate our... Yeah.
So
Wally,
I would like to ask you, what is the alternative? If they are not allowed to join Nupeng, what alternative do we conceive for them, for the over 3,000 workers, in terms of collective bargaining and also protecting their interests?
I think they should go back and negotiate with their employers. Nupeng and the Pengasan should exit themselves from these threats, from this area boys mentality. Shutting down Dangote, destroying that business will not add any value to our economy. It's a $20 billion investment, for crying out loud. It's a wrong signal to investors. And I tell us, Obasanjo even said that when he wanted to hand over the refineries to Shell, they declined it. Mark it that the first refinery that was built in Nigeria was built by Shell in 1965. How come Shell, after building the first refinery, have refused to put any $1 investment in the downstream oil and gas sector? Is this kind of madness? And we want to appeal to the leadership of Pengasan and Nupeng. The era of area boys, Aberos mentality should be stopped. Engage Dangote employers. Ask them why. See, those employees, if your employer said they don't want you to belong to Pengasan and Nupeng, you can seek employment elsewhere where such is allowed. And that is the truth. We need to face the truth. And see, I'm not a fan of Aliko Dangote, to be very honest. If you go through the social media, go through politics, you will see that sometimes I've been very, very hard on the company, on some of their games of trying to muscle up that man and other members. But on this particular issue, Dangote refinery is right. Nupeng and Pengasan should not insert themselves in a relationship between an employer and employee. That is the same thing to do.
Now, if Pengasan failed to heed your advice, what is the way out? What will be the way out?
The way out is, I think the federal government of Nigeria had to intervene. I think I'm very, very happy that Ugochinyere Ikenga, the House of Representatives chairman on petroleum downstream, is also promising to wade in. Senate has to wade in. I think dialogue is the best way out. They need to sit down. If Dangote Refinery says they don't want their members to belong to Pengasan and Nupeng, their staff, Pengasan and Nupeng should back out. You guys mentioned something very interesting. Before the advent of the military, all the oil organizations, all of them used to have their own association within their companies. And that is how it should be. You know, we need to, see, for Nigeria to move forward, we need to call a spade a spade. We need to do what is right. Pengasan, we need to appeal to their leadership. Nupeng, do what is right. Allow peace and sanity to reign in the industry. And on the issue of, I was even advocating, the federal government of Nigeria should not allow also a monopoly. Dangote is doing what he's supposed to do because he's a businessman. Every businessman will want to profit here. And that is why I also challenge other participants like Moman and Darkman. We have Port Harcourt, we have Warri Refinery that are not working. Both of them have nameplate capacity of 210,000 barrels a day plus 125,000 barrels a day. They can actually bid, go to the NNPC, go to the federal government, value those assets, hand over at least 50% to Darkman, sell the balance to Nigerians, let them manage those refineries. See, let me tell you, when I hear people say those refineries are not working, I get bewildered. Because even in Texas, there are 102-year-old refineries that are functioning. There's no refinery in Nigeria that is over 60 years old. If 102 years refineries are working in America and Europe, 65 years, 60 years, 50 years, 40 years, should work. They are not working because of the public sector profligacy and criminality. That man members who are very, very integral, the most important members of the value chain, should wake up, come together, set up an SPV, approach the federal government, take up those refineries, revamp them, collocate new refineries. See, Dangote has nameplate capacity of 650 barrels a day. If Brazil, with crude oil reserve of 15.5 billion barrels, can produce 3.7 billion barrels of crude a day, refine 2.4 million barrels a day, Nigeria, with 37.5 billion barrels reserve, should be able to produce 4 million barrels a day crude, and should be able to refine at least 3.4 million barrels. So we need more refineries. And we should also amend the relevant laws. Nobody should go looking for oil block or marginal field license without showing technical and financial capacity to refine it here. If we can refine 3 million, 4 million barrels of crude every day in Nigeria, we have a very big 600 million man sub-Saharan African market to take over. Nigeria is not the only place where we consume white petroleum products. Nigeria stands at a better place. Boy is coming on stream. We have Watersmith, we have OPAC. Others should come up. We should stop this tunnel mentality of putting all our eggs in Nigeria. We have a massive 600 million man market in Southern Africa to take over. Nigeria should actually be the petroleum hub, shutting out everybody coming from Europe and Asia. And it's a win-win for us. We'll create massive jobs here, build up this economy, and create an all-inclusive wealth and property for us. We should stop this club mentality of trying to drag down everybody or each other. This is a big field for us, and we can play in it.
Thank you, Mr. Nemeka Obiareri. You come across to me as an aluta man, but it's okay. So all four of us are here. Do we think would we see the light at the end of the tunnel at the end of the day?
Yes, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like I said,
yeah,
the first thing that the federal government did, which was right, was removal of subsidy.
Yeah, consider this also. We are yet to meet the OPEC
quota. Yes.
Quota.
Yes. We are yet to meet the OPEC quota because of certain issues. You ask yourself this question. How come in areas like a place like Brazil, like Russia, like Saudi Arabia, cost of producing a barrel of crude is about $15. In Nigeria, it's $30, $41. It's inefficiencies. We are not investing in new technologies. We're not investing in infrastructure. We're having security issues. And we all know these problems, and we know the solutions there too. Saudi Arabia has pipelines that are 3 times, 4 times more than what we have in terms of numbers and size. Yet, no inch of Saudi Arabia pipeline has ever been broken into. They don't lose a barrel to any thieves and inefficiencies. No poor man can steal crude oil. Crude oil is stolen by those at the very top. The financing, the technology, and the logistics. So we need to stand and tell ourselves the truth. And I will tell you this, Ojulari is the right man. He's at the NNPC. So we need to encourage him, but we need to do one thing. And I want to appeal to Mr. President directly. Look at what Brazilians did. You have the capacity. And you know, he's doing it even it. If you look at what he's doing now, they are divesting NNPC holding on the JVs down to 30. This is what we advised Buhari government, which they didn't do. Tinubu is doing it. They're divesting the federal government holdings to the NNPC on the JVs down to 35. Those JVs will become incorporated and it will make them more efficient. To take it a notch higher, Mr. President and President should take on the other step, divest the holdings of Petroleum Ministry and the Finance Ministry Incorporated from NNPC, sell down 70%, 30% to deep-pocketed technical capable investors, 40% to Nigerians, let it become like Petrobras, list on the floor of Nigeria, so even on London Stock Exchange. I will tell you this, that will be the greatest legacy of Mr. President. By the time we come to 2027, you will see crude oil output go back to 2.5 million barrels. And you will see refining capacity go beyond what we have today. We have the right man at NNPC. We need to do the right thing to empower him. Look at Nigeria liquefied natural gas. It's efficient because it is 51% owned by the private sector and 49% by NNPC. And they are not subjected to the shenanigans of the public sector. Nobody is inviting the National Assembly to come and threaten them.
Mr. Obiareri, I must stop you here. Time is the master on this show. Gentlemen, he still has a lot of oil in his tank.
I must commend him. He has shown knowledge and he has shown intellect and expertise. I want to believe very strongly that the authorities are listening, and I hope we'll sift through some of the suggestions and see the one we can work
because
with.
At the end of it all, it is how does the everyday Nigerian gain from all of this?
Of course, because if Pengasson is allowed to carry out their threat, you and I know what the repercussion will be.
Okay, gentlemen, we must go, but not before thanking Adewale Adeoye for your intervention.
Thank you very much.
Ishmael Omikpidon, I thank you for coming in.
The pleasure is mine.
We thank Nnemeka Obiareri for your time, sir. Thank you. Okay, folks, that's it on the program for today. Join us tomorrow for the regular episode, which is billed for 5 o'clock. But if you missed any part of this broadcast this afternoon, later tonight at 11, we have a repeat broadcast. Okay, so we are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. And so on behalf of the Backroom Boys